Hey guys, Steve here, Ponics. Today we're going to talk about
Growing with fishes. Growing with fishes.
Welcome to the Growing with Fishes podcast. We have another awesome returning guest with us again today. Today we have Luna Whitcomb joining us again. How's it going?
That's Steve. I always love hanging out with you.
Oh yeah, we have all kinds of fun, either online or in person. We tear it up.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun running around with you at Cannabis this past year.
Hell yeah! I think that was the first time we had to actually like hang out outside of like a weed event and just like fucking go have
Yeah,
fun. It was cool.
it definitely was. Yeah, you kind of saved my time there, honestly. I was just kind of wandering around. It was nice to run into you and talk shop and smoke weed and run around. That was pretty cool.
Oh yeah. And I guess on that note, maybe that's a top. We were talking this a little bit before the show, but like the community a little bit is kind of like shrinking a little and a little not quite the way it used to be in terms of attendance at a lot of the events on the West Coast, and it's made it a little bit harder to kind of
Yeah,
get to
that's
as many.
yeah, the festival was definitely smaller than it was the year before. Um, And it's funny because Steve and I were having I'm speaking directly to the audience. Steve and I were having a conversation before we started recording about some of this stuff, and then we were like, "Hey, we should just talk about this while we're on the show." But yeah, we're talking about how how the scene has got a lot smaller, and I was just saying how I think like legality has affected like the counterculture of the cannabis scene quite a bit, and it's like you no longer need to know someone who like knows someone to get something that's like special. And like yeah, I think it's like rippling through the scene as well as the financial strain that legality has put on just like the like the legacy farmers, I guess you would say. Um and the scene is just getting like smaller and smaller, you know? I mean, it's a little disappointing, but we got to do our best to keep it alive.
And that doesn't even mention all the mountain of paperwork you have to do to file a license, better yet multiple. Like having currently renewing five of them out here in California with the group that I work with, like it's a lot of fucking work. Like each one is hundreds and hundreds of pages if you actually do it right and have everything mapped out. And you have to have like satellite images and topography maps of all your stuff and where your watersheds are and all this other crap. And it's like, you didn't have to spend, a month just doing paperwork before just to get growing. Like, and it's really, become a huge barrier for a lot of people.
Yeah, that's what I'm working on right now. I'm doing that for a company back east. I'm amending a license application and making sure that it didn't have content absent and that things were correct and so on and so on. And the application itself is 1,000 pages long. It's 1,000 pages of content. Um, it's a huge amount of work, just to do something, just to grow plants. You know what I mean? And I understand, like, we have to be safe and we have to be thorough and we have to make sure we're not contaminating watersheds and ecosystems and changing ecosystems and stuff like that. But I feel like I go through a lot of this content, and a lot of each sections are just repeating a lot of the information that's in the section before it. Um, and then when it's finally said and done, there was a state that I wrote an application within a couple years ago, 2 years ago, a year ago, I don't know. Anyway, um, and once everyone submitted it, they just scored everyone at the highest score possible who submitted an application, and then randomly chose someone through like a lottery system, and like it happened to be the largest MSO that applied. You know what I mean? And it's just, and then it's like they protect themselves in a way, so it's like you can't be like, oh, that's bullshit. Like what you did isn't fair, because it's like, oh, it was random, and then there's no way for you to disprove or prove that it really was random. Um, and you're just stuck. Like, great, I'm glad that we invested $100,000 and hundreds of hours of our time amongst, a full-on team to just have the spoil go to the largest company. You know what I mean? And it's it's obnoxious. And when it comes down to that kind of system, like who even wants to play the game anymore? Like who's who's even going to try? Um, but also I think that it can almost like solidifies the relevance of the black market and the underground scene surrounding it. You know what I mean? Like if you're not going to play fair and give everyone like a chance to do what they enjoy doing and what they're passionate about doing, people are just going to do it anyway. And then the whole thing that you're trying to avoid in the first place now actually comes to fruition. Um, that's my take on it anyway.
Oh yeah, I mean, we did that project in Half Moon Bay, and we worked with the city council. We worked with everybody in the area, and the day of the vote on whether or not for local control to allow us to get our license, after we already had purchased a property for like 1.5 million, had spent like 2.2 million, I think, to date, just trying to get everything off the ground with all the various bullshit that comes along with trying to do that, and to start, renovations on an existing greenhouse facility that did something other than cannabis. And then they denied us a license in a city that had 88% of the population vote in order to allow for people to have cannabis access. So because the
That's
local
crazy.
Catholic Church busted in half the Bay Area to oppose it, and it was basically like standing room only, and it was like
On
800
what
people
grounds?
against like the six people that owned a business that were just trying to get open and provide local jobs. And it was just outrageous, like the shit that you can just get rug pulled in, and you can dump an ungodly amount of money and just have no way to recover it, which is insane, you know.
On what grounds? What was, do you know what like that church's stance was
Just
on
because drugs bad,
drugs bad, right?
and it's
Weed
like, I don't
drugs,
know,
drugs bad,
why don't you read your book? It says right there in Genesis that all the seeds of the earth are there for man. Like, it's in your book, man. Come on.
right? Right?
It makes no sense.
No, it doesn't make any sense. It's definitely infuriating.
But I
Um,
think that's what a lot of people don't realize is like just how much work it is just to even get like to the point where you can even apply for a permit. I mean, a lot of markets you have to have your full SOPs written before you can even apply for the place. Now, imagine if you like never run a business but you want to, and you have to suddenly summon SOPs out of thin air that are compliant to whatever state's pesticide regimen is, and all the other things that you have to do to maintain a nursery rule. A lot of the states have different rules for nurseries and all kinds of other things, water
mhm.
use and all this other stuff that you have no idea to even like include in your plan, you know?
Yeah, that's what I'm working on right now. Actually, that's the section that I have up on my screens is SOP stuff. And then oftentimes, you're given a particular page limit, and then this SOP section is supposed to entail, cultivation, delivery, transportation, dispensing, extraction, including IPM and risk management and like criminal activity and security and all this stuff, waste disposal. And it's like I have 30 pages to put it all in. And it's like, how am I supposed to include proper amount of content to cover all of these things in 30 pages? And so like everything is very like summarized. It's very like we will do things in accordance to this law, instead of it's just and then yeah, I don't know. Anyway, I'm just ranting, but it's very frustrating doing all this paperwork stuff.
Yeah, and some states are like California and New Jersey. New Jersey by far has been the worst one that I've had to do any amount of work in, like by far, not even close. I mean, Health Canada was worse, but after Health Canada, New Jersey by far was the worst.
Yeah, it's it's work. It's honest work, but it's just frustrating. There's always something.
Yep.
It's
And
like,
then I feel like every time you go through and you have like a template, and then they'll update it, and you're like, fuck, I gotta write another document that is like for next year's. That's what I'm doing right now, is
yeah,
updating like the pesticide stuff and updating some of the water use rules and the power stuff and some of the things that we've had to
to
upgrade. But
update. Yeah, I mean, even throughout the process of writing this stuff, the plan has changed a couple times, like within the business itself. Like, oh, we've actually decided we're going to start with indoor and then do greenhouse. And like originally it was like we're going to do greenhouse and then do indoor, and then you have to you're going back and reworking the same thing multiple times. So it's like, okay,
right, makes you want to pull your hair out.
fun. It does. It does. It does. Anyway, paperwork stuff is always challenging. Let's talk about some like juicy sciencey stuff. You want to get into some
Right,
like fun
sure.
content? Let's
Yeah.
talk about something fun. My whole life has been consumed by consulting work and license application. Let's have some fun. Let's talk about
Sure.
something
What
nice.
uh what are some of the cultivars you're looking forward to growing this year, and
Oh, some
maybe some of the ones that you worked with
cultivars.
last year that you were stoked about?
Um, So last year, yeah, I grew a whole bunch of stuff. I'm not even sure how many. It was over 15, under 20. It was probably around 18. That's anyway. Um, but there were definitely a few that stood out. I do my own breeding stuff, and so when I grow things out, I'm typically just growing the things that I'm breeding to like test them and stuff like that. And there are a few that stood out: the raspberry deadhead, the raspberry bomb, the lunar chem, lunar diesel. Moon Diamonds has been a crusher forever, lemon guru cheese. And I'm probably going to work those lines even more, um, just to like, progress with the like most stellar ones and like just always have like the best shit. Um, but I'm also going to bring back some old genetics that I um, have had in my stash that I've been meaning to work for a while. I got some like really, really badass blue cheese, some like real blue cheese. And I've kind of become like the cheese girl, you know? And so it's been working for me. And so I think I'm gonna stick with that. You know what I mean? I'm gonna keep working cheese stuff and like integrate it into my own unique genetics. And just have cheese for everyone, and skunk, because I did a skunk project. Was it last year, or the year before? I think it was the year before. Um, and yeah, I just want to keep working on skunk aromas, cheese aromas. Um, but I'm definitely gonna work and grow out the stuff that I had mentioned. Um, I am also getting a whole bunch of landrace stuff from these girls that I met in Southeast Asia when I was over in Thailand, or met them in Thailand when I was in Thailand. I think we talked about this quite a bit when we were at Cannabis and stuff, but um, I was in northeast Thailand, like near Lao, and um, I was at Prempavi's cannabis tournament, and I was like one of the only English speaking people there. There was like one other person there, and then I hear these girls with, I hear a girl with a California accent coming, and I get like all excited. I'm like, oh my God, I can speak English to somebody. And it turns out they had been like traveling Southeast Asia for the past like 13 years collecting landrace. And so they're going to send me 7 different landrace genetics from all over Southeast Asia. And so I'm going to have that stuff too, which I'm probably going to start offering on my website. And I would love to work it. Um, but it's all equatorial landrace. So it's like 24 to 28 to 32-week flowering strains, which is a thing to breed. It's a thing. Um, I know you're like a landrace enthusiast also. Like,
Yeah.
what's your experience breeding with land? Have
So
you ever
the
bred with landrace?
Oh yeah. So the best, I mean, I have a couple of different crosses from the Temple Tie. And
Oh
the
yeah, yeah,
biggest
you gave me
thing,
some of
like if
that.
you're trying to speed them up, one, give them cold nights, like really drop your AC down if it's like a
Uh-huh.
really long flowering strain like that. And then two, the other thing you can do is like shorten the days down to like 9, 10 hours instead of like 12 and really, really shorten those up. And that also seems to make like a big difference in kind of like hurrying them up and like
Huh.
shaving some of the time off because they're like, shit, like we're gonna die. We gotta hurry it up. But the cold and the shorter days, like instead of doing like 11 and a half for equatorials, cut it down to like 10. And yeah, you're losing a little bit of photo
Even with
optimization, but the plants are only going to use the first 8 or 9 hours anyway, so it's like
okay.
optimally.
Even
So
for like 28-week like sativas, you can
yeah,
get them down to 10.
no, you're not going to get down to 10, but
Oh,
you're
I
going to
thought you said
shave.
I
It's
thought you
going
said
to
10.
become like a 16, 17, 18 week instead of a
Oh,
26 week.
oh, you were talking about 10 hours. Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Um,
No, you can shave off quite a bit of time and speeding them up, but there's a limit to that too. You know what I mean? And then the other thing
yeah.
and people don't talk about this much, and I noticed it big time. We're growing the Thai stuff, even when we were trying to flower them, is a lot of them have a minimum burn for their if they're growing under 12-12, a minimum amount of time that they're going to veg. So like they will veg for like 2 months no matter what. It doesn't matter what you do in terms of life
Yeah.
cycle.
They're
It's
not
just it
hormonally mature.
yeah, it's almost like they're like partially auto or something like that. Like they have to get to a certain size before they'll trigger or a certain age before they'll trigger, even under 12-12. It doesn't matter. Um, so that's something else I've noticed a lot with the equatorial stuff. In particular, is that almost all of them, the first 90 days, you're not really going to be able to do much anything with them. except for veg them because they're just not going to want to do anything else. The first 60 or 90 days.
Um, how have you navigated like hermaphroditic expression?
I just stress, take a clone, stress it out, see what happens. It's kind of
Yeah.
then hoping for the best. But if you, a lot of the equatorial ones are pretty pouty, especially if you give them, a wacky light schedule or, any amount of regular stress,
Pouty?
tends to trigger them pretty easy.
You say pouty?
Yeah, pouty.
Like they throw a fit?
Like if you put them in like a really small pots and keep them root bound, a lot of them, that's another way you can kind of trigger that hermaphroditic trait really easy.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah.
if you give them like fuck up their night schedule for a minute, like for like a
Yeah,
week or
just like
two, and then go
stress
back to
anyone
normal.
possible.
Yeah, so have them under 12-12 and then switch them back to like 18 for like a week or a week and a half and then flip them back to 12-12 and like really kind of
Just
fuck with it.
them.
Yeah.
Just fuck with them and to
Yeah.
see if they start herming on you and then just call those.
Oh yeah. No, especially if I'm really worried about like a long-term mother, like I think it's going to be a good candidate. Like take a couple clones and just beat the shit out of them. Take them like roll them in your hands like you're going to make charas out of it and really fuck them up and like just stress them the fuck out to try and trigger that because remember like the reason why the plant does it is because it's a self-preservation mechanism for that
Right.
population, right? So
Right.
the reason why plants become hermaphroditic is because they're trying to like not go extinct in that area, and a hermaphroditic plant prevents extinction. So
Right.
if you stress them out and make the plant think it's going to die, that's if the genes are there and they're going to trigger easily, you're going to figure it out pretty quick. But 9 times out of 10, if you just root bound them, so put them in like a party cup, like a red party cup, and then raise them to a decent size, and then let them just get super root bound. 9 times out of 10, that's all you need to do to figure out if it's got a pretty hermy trait. It's not going to weed them all out, but it'll weed out 80-85% of them.
Cool. Great. Great idea. Love that.
Yeah, especially with those stuff that's used to growing outdoors because it's never used to being root bound. So it's a pretty big trigger.
Right. Yeah, that's all like native soil stuff out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're not building any custom soils or anything.
Any other takeaways you had from your Asia trip there? Well, we talked about it like, a lot quite extensively last time you were on the
Yeah.
show.
Was it when I was on the show?
Was it? I have to go back and listen. I think it
I
was.
don't
Maybe,
remember the
maybe we
last time.
haven't talked since then.
I don't know. Did I do a show with you after I went to Thailand? Maybe we just talked about it in person. I don't even remember.
Yeah, maybe it was in person. I don't remember. Do you want to
I
give
don't
a quick rundown on it? We don't have to spend too much time on it, but
I mean, just if you go to Thailand, make sure the weed is cured properly because I got super, super sick over there, smoking and judging their land race. I thought I was gonna die. I thought I was gonna die. Um, my friends and I that I made over there, we judged our samples at the same time, and we both got so sick. And they had been traveling around Southeast Asia for a while, and they got sick. I got like deathly ill, had to be on a steroid inhaler for over a month, was on huge amounts of, I was taking like, I think like 7 antibiotics a day, like
whoa.
7 pills of antibiotics a day. I couldn't get over being sick. Like I was bedridden, like couldn't get out of bed for like a week straight. It was crazy how sick I got. Because they're trying to like dry everything at like 80% humidity over there, you know.
Yeah.
And then they just throw it all in bags, like huge, like ostrich bags. They just fill ostrich bags full of weed, and then they just bag it up and give it out to people, and it's moldy and smells different. It definitely starts to like ferment and stuff. And they have, they don't, they only use waste products that can't be consumed by any kind of animal, right? So like cow manure, urine, like rice wash, and that's like it. I talked to them about like fish bones, and they're like, "Nah, fish bones go to the dogs." I was like, "What about fermenting milk?" And they're like, "Why would we do that? We drink it, and it's very expensive." And it's like, okay. And then like, what about fruit? And they're like, "No, we eat the fruit. We don't have enough fruit." And it's like, damn, okay. I'm like, you can ferment bamboo, and they're like, how do you do that? I'm like, oh, you mix it with sugar, and they're like, no, we need that sugar. It's like, okay, all right, um, but Yeah, so they're just very limited. Um, but
I know,
I got
I know.
lit on the flower. It was definitely a unique
Nice.
flower that got me super super stoned. My nervous system, my endocannabinoid system definitely wasn't used to whatever profile of organic compounds were inside of that flower because I got lit on it. So that was nice.
Nice.
Yeah, people
Yeah,
are very nice there. Sorry, keep going.
I
Sorry.
know when I judged the first 420 cup they had there in Bangkok, that we had like 300 and some entries, but like you were saying, I think only about 70 of them were actually like smokable. The rest of them were like had dust on it or mold or some other thing because they weren't used to growing. I mean, it was like their first time ever growing on the first harvest. So that was
Yeah,
definitely a huge problem. And then of those, I think only like 25 of them are kind of on par with Western genetics in terms of quality. You know what I mean?
interesting. Were they landrace or were they just genetics
Everything
from
from
Thailand?
indoor, Western genetics to, landrace stuff and everything in between. There
Hmm.
was one landrace that came from Chiang Rai and it smelled and tasted like clove cigarettes. It was like, it had this like clove terp to it, and I've only had it
Interesting.
that one time.
Do you think it was uh I want to say organic? Do you think it was actually
Adulterated.
adulter? There we go. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
No, so it didn't, when you smelled it, it didn't have the like smell to it. Like it didn't smell like it was like stored in a box of jarums. You know what I mean?
Sure.
It had like a different, like a weird, almost like a frankincense kind of smell to it. It had like a different smell to it altogether. And then when you
Hmm.
smoked it, it tasted real strong, like tingly on the tongue, kind of like a clove. And it was like not horrible to smoke either. It
You don't
was
think they
very
like
strange.
kept it in a bag of cloves?
I mean, I guess it's possible, but I
Sure.
feel like I would have smelled it if that was the case. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. Well, that's awesome. I love like stumbling into a unique expression like that.
And then there was like
Cool.
3 or 4 of them that tasted like sandalwood at one of the places I was at in Chiang Mai. And
Oh,
that was
very
really
cool.
interesting too, to have that it was like a
Very cool.
Himalayan strains that they had gotten from like India or Nepal or something like that. They had brought back
Very cool. What was the high?
really cerebral, like really like super sativa, not indica at all. It was
That's what I
really, really
noticed over there. Everything was like very like buzzy, like high vibration, like
good. Yep.
you know?
80% of it's all lemon because it's the easiest one to grow there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I ran into a lot of lemon terps. It was like creamy lemon, like herbal. Um, but yeah, no real like indicas or musk or
Oh yeah.
earth really.
Yeah, you
Um,
can't grow that there. It's too hot. And you put anything like we put blueberry out in the full sun just to see how it grows. They just melted. They just
yeah,
fucking crumpled after like a day. It was not gonna
yeah,
work.
yeah. The location that I was in, they're all very subscribed to like uh Western genetics are all just inferior, because you plant them there and they all die. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, if
And
you put a 30% sunshade on it, they'll grow.
yeah, yeah. But because they're all North America, or well, I guess Northern Hemisphere genetics. They're not equatorial, right? Um, and you bring it down to the equator, and like, yeah, it's not gonna grow there. Like you bring equatorial weed, and you bring it to the Northern Hemisphere, it's not gonna grow there either, or not very well anyway. It's not gonna finish. But,
For sure. It was like
but yeah.
Oklahoma when Oklahoma legalized and everyone planted runts because that was the hot shit in 2019. It just rotted in the heat and humidity there.
Oh
I know a
no.
guy that planted like over 50 acres of runts and just
Oh,
not a single one survived to harvest.
oh no. What's the I've never been to Oklahoma. What kind of humidity, like, in the vapor, like vapor
Depending on where you're
pressure?
on the state, like 40 to 80%. I mean, on average, like 60 to 75 for most of the state. So real
Okay.
high, much higher. And sometimes like it can be 90%, 95% and like 105 out. And
Oh,
not many plants are gonna like, unless you have something that's a little bit more like Durban poison loves it. Any Durban cross out there just fucking eats that shit up. They'll perform like 10% better than they would in like a normal, California kind of place that's not quite so hot. Like they love it. But if you
okay.
have something that's, used to, being a indoor queen that has never experienced outdoors, like half the stuff that
Right.
people are trying to grow right now, good luck. It's just not going to grow there. It's the wrong genetics. Or super large dense colas like Godbud or something. it's just not going to grow anywhere that's super humid unless you're just not, unless you have really good airflow. But, good luck trying to figure that out outdoors. You're stuck at what nature gives you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you got to keep that in mind when picking out your genetics for sure. I rocked a Durban in my tent in this winter grow, and it does not like the cold.
No.
No, it did not like the cold at all. Um,
Angie's another one that hates the heat. It just cannot, none of those
Tangy.
did well.
I
Yeah.
haven't grown Tangy in a long time. Tangy got like so hyped, so popular, so quick. I think people got burnt out on it, and now it's just like
Some of them
gone.
can be very strong too. Some of them taste like you're like smoking the cleaner from your bathroom. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean that's nice. Yeah, as long as it's not it's not too astringent. I
Right.
do like astringent, like gassy, kind of like chemi profiles like that. I'm pretty
Any
cool.
other profiles that or anything you're excited to pop this year that you're like, man, I got these seeds or something different?
Something unique, just that old stuff I've been sitting on forever. I really want to get that blue cheese rocking. I'm probably gonna just focus a lot of my energy on that, start like a blue cheese line. Um, I don't know. Well, I got hired as director of cultivation for this company back east, and so I might be out. Maybe I shouldn't announce what state, but I'm gonna be in a state back east just in case it doesn't happen. But if it does happen, I'll be out there in the south, in the Bible Belt, and um growing it's a decent size cultivation project, but it's all going to be turned into distillate, and so a lot of my content might shift from my 10 grow series to um doing a decent indoor living soil grow and then into a pretty decently large scale greenhouse mixed light grow, which would be pretty fun and interesting to navigate with the climate in that area. um but in terms of like those, the genetics I'm gonna rock, if I do go back out east, it's definitely like a humid situation. I was planning on running my Durban skunk, and then a different skunk that I know doesn't get super dense but yields really heavy and can handle high heat and humidity. Um, and then the density stuff, it's not going to be a huge deal because it's all being run for extraction and we don't want something crazy dense because it's going to be humid there. For the indoor, it won't be as big of an issue because we're just going to be rocking a whole bunch of dehumidification. But for the greenhouse, there's only so much dehumidification that you can run. Um, you just got to vent that thing out. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, especially in some of the states out east that just kind of stay swampy.
It's swampy. It's swampy. It's going to be interesting. But I'm
Actually,
confident that I'll be able to pull it off.
on that topic though, because you just mentioned it, do you want to talk a little bit more about like extraction cultivars versus flower cultivars? Because I think a lot of people don't realize that like if you're maximizing extraction, you're not growing for buds, you're growing for maximum trichome density. So you're looking at strains that have like trichomes on the stalks and trichomes on the leaves and
Mhm.
trichomes on as much of the plant as possible and higher densities and fluffier bud that's going to, come apart more and be much more easier to extract.
Yeah. So I mean, we can talk about that. We can talk about, um, so it's also going to depend on what kind of extraction method you're doing, depending like if you're going to be doing like dry sift rosin situation, you want like sandy trichome heads. I am not an extraction artist, and so I might say something that someone's like, that's not necessarily true. But from what I understand, this is what I understand. Um, and then like if we're going to be doing like a solvent extraction, right? A volatile extraction, we might want something with a little bit more like resin content, right? Um, but this project is planning on extracting only buds, and so we wouldn't be running leaf. We're not going to be trimming it, right? But like we're not going to be running like stems and stuff like that. And we want things that are fluffy because we don't want to sit there and grind everything up, and we don't want to break all those trichome heads and damage it all. So ideally, it's just fluffy weed that's thrown in its extraction vessel and then ran. Um but yeah, depending on the processes, this is all like distillate, right? So it's not like we're making high quality rosin or doing like dry sift or pressing it or anything like that. So it's like grow for a lot of biomass, make sure it has a lot of oils on it and, trichome heads and isn't super dense. Which the Durban skunk that I have is decently dense, but I have the Alpha Skunk 45S1 is very large buds, very purple buds, that don't get dense. They like really don't get dense. Um, and so I'm going to be rocking a lot of that too. And then obviously, depending on the climate, you want to grow things that are going to be compatible with the environmentals that you're going to be running them in. I don't know, did I miss anything? What else you got?
No, no, that was great. And just
Yeah,
a lot of people that grow don't understand that there's like a structural difference in the plants that when you're maximizing for that kind of production.
right. Yeah, for sure. Um, but since we're growing living soil, we have a bit of an advantage for like higher terp and oil and whatever. And then since we're just running for distillate, we're going to just collect huge amounts of terpenes for a while until the laws change a little bit in that area, and then we just have an abundance of terps that we're probably going to make a whole bunch of stuff with, and we'll have all the terpiest terps, terp 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 terp.
Are you guys doing steam separation on that or?
I don't know. You'd have to ask Murphy. Um, uh, or yeah, should I have said her name anyway? But I don't know. I am not the extraction artist. Um, but I'm privileged enough to be running or doing this project with my friend who's extremely talented. So and then all the like consultants and stuff on this team are all women, so I'm excited to do it. So it's gonna just be like women crushing it. Um uh yeah. But no, I don't know much about how the extraction is done. I leave that all up to her. I'm doing all the cultivation. I'm just gonna run living soil beds. Um And some of the people that I got quotes from over there, they're like, "Oh, that's not gonna work. It's not gonna work. You can't grow in beds out here." Um, and I'm kind of like, sure, I'm sure that other people have grown in beds out there and it hasn't worked out for them, but and maybe I'm being overconfident, and so I'm trying to just be extremely careful. But because they were talking about like, oh, like powder mildew is crazy here, and it's like, I I haven't seen powder mildew in a living soil situation in over a decade. Like I don't get powder mildew. And maybe it's because, I grow or I've been growing in Northern California and Southern Oregon and Central Oregon and like all West Coast and Central California. And maybe just the pressure isn't as bad. But I remember people around me all getting powder mildew and like I never got powder mildew in living soil. Um, and it could just be the way that myself and the people I surround myself with cultivate living soil to like maximize, biological density and activity and stuff like that, and that keeps the powder mildew from proliferating. Um, but they were like, "Oh, that's crazy! Like, you definitely don't want to do that." And I'm like, "Actually, I think it's going to give me a leg up on everyone else who's rocking hydroponic cocoa core, pumping and dumping in their greenhouses, with no microbes at all. I think they're the ones that really got to worry about it. You know what I mean? What's your take on that?
Well, I grew 24,000 plants in the center on an island in a rice field, which is arguably more insane to try and prevent powdery mildew than anything else that I've ever seen. And we had two plants that had any amount of mold on them at all, and it was both fusarium, and it just had to do with probably like the compost that we had gotten or something like that. So
Sure.
but we had zero powdery mildew on any plants in that facility, like in greenhouse. I mean, it wasn't even greenhouses; they were like screen houses that had like plastic on top and thrip screen as the walls, like not even fully enclosed to the wind.
I remember seeing
Um,
that actually.
yeah, so
Yeah.
so if you have a lot of fungi in the soil, that prevents all these issues entirely. And this is where I really kind of like cued in on this was in Oklahoma, going back to what we talked about earlier. All like 95% of the fields that I saw that had septoria, alternaria, botrytis, fusarium, or powdery mildew were fields that the year beforehand were cattle fields or corn fields or wheat fields that have been sprayed with 2,4-D or some other broadleaf herbicide that wiped out all the fungi or had been fertilized to death or
Right.
whatever else using synthetic chemicals. So there was no fungi present. If you did a soil analysis with a scope There'd be next to no fungi hyphae at all in the soil, like 99% of the time. So how is this plant going to have any defense against? Why is it going to waste energy to create compounds to defend itself against fungi if it's never exposed to fungi? It doesn't make any sense for the plant to waste the energy, because remember, the plants only have so much energy they can produce secondary compounds with. So why is it going to waste that? It makes sense from a plant to not produce things that it's not seeing in the environment, right? So if you have a plant that's in compost, or you even put down like a couple good applications of liquid IMO, you don't even have to go crazy. But just by getting that fungal inoculant on the roots, the plant then starts to make secondary metabolites to defend itself against that. I mean, part of it too is nutrition. Your boron and your calcium levels are going to, and silica
Yeah.
levels are going to help make the walls thicker to defend itself against hyphae. But if the plant doesn't even see fungi and the rest of it's there, it's still going to get infected because the plant is not making secondary metabolites to defend itself. And its immune system is not primed in order to defend itself against fungi. And why would it waste the energy? It makes a lot of sense.
And you were just rocking IMO out there?
Oh yeah, I use liquid IMO for everything. I use it in aquaponics at least every other week. I usually alternate labs and liquid IMO in my aquaponics facilities. So like 1 week we'll do one week we'll do the other, and inoculate it 1 to 1,000 in the systems. And it prevents like all of the silt that builds up in the system just gets eaten by the microbes. We don't have any more random fungal outbreaks with the fish start to beat each other up like
You run it through
bluegills.
irrigation?
Yeah, just right through the irrigation. We filter. I'll run it through a paint
Sediment
strainer
filter?
just to make sure there's no
Okay.
debris in it. But yeah, it runs just fine. Or I'll run it usually through like a 220 bag. I'll get the big giant 30-gallon 220 bags like you use for washing, and then
Yeah.
just pour it through there, have that in the bucket, and then run that into the system. It works
Cool.
great.
That's great. It's all drip irrigation.
Usually I put it in a dose bucket, so I'll have it in like a big 5 or 10 gallon or whatever the size is for that system, and then I have it on like a little valve that has a little tiny like 1/4 inch valve to it, and then just set that to partially open, so it's like a stream that comes out, so it doses it over the course of 2 or 3 hours, so that it doesn't
Gotcha.
flood the zone in one particular part of the system.
Mhm. Cool.
Usually into the sump tank next to the pump, so it goes right out to the beds.
Very nice. Love
But
that.
yeah, that
Very cool.
really makes a big difference, especially if you're doing any amount of, even if you're just doing fish tanks. A few drops of lactobacillus can get rid of all the like fungi that builds up on the wood if you have new driftwood that you put in your tank, and also just keep the system cleaner and keep your fish healthier, because it will help with fish diseases as well. You can use it in place of Melifix, the medication. It'll get rid of a lot of your any external bacterial infection. It seems to work really good on it for aquarium fish.
Yeah. Yeah, I was familiar with that. It's pretty cool. Lactobacillus is very underrated.
Uh,
Um,
talking a little bit about where you and I'm not going to mention where your farm is, but in the part of the country that you're growing in, the biggest, having grown one state over from there, the biggest issues we ran into was leaf hoppers and septoria. Were much harder to deal with there. Like I didn't have issues with septoria, but all the neighbors did.
were you rocking a
And then the
native?
leaf hoppers were like really, really hard to deal with there. And the
I've
only thing that worked really good was Velifer. Velifer is the only product I found that I can apply, and I will get rid of 95% of them every time.
Velifer? Yeah, I've experienced leaf hoppers before when I was in Chico. I'm gonna write that down real quick because I've never
Yeah,
heard of Velifer before. What compound is that? What's the mode of action?
Velifer is it's BASF strain of Varibaciana. They have a specific one, and it works
Oh.
on spider mites as well, which is different than any of the other BB strains. The product works on spider mites and on everything else, but I've found that works really good on leaf hoppers, or combining multiple BB strains together, brewing them for like 12 hours and then doing an application,
You're
allowing them to
brewing them, huh?
hybridize, because they'll hybridize to a lesser extent, and they get the hybrid vigor on an infection. So and not every
Interesting.
state lets you do that with the
What are you
pesticide
brewing it
application.
with?
Just a little bit, like a pinch of insect frass, just to keep it going, just to feed it something.
Cool.
Yeah, and you
Writing
can do that
notes.
with Isariophymus raceae as well. You can blend the strains together, and create a little bit of a hybrid vigor. But that's the only way that I've ever infected leaf hoppers, is with those two, and then IPMO. But that's a little more intensive for most people.
Right. Yeah. That's a decent amount of work. I've still never tried it. Cool.
It's
Very
it's
cool.
great if you have something that has 6 legs that isn't responding to other stuff. It doesn't work on things much. Like
Yeah, it's
I've
super
had
small.
mixed results with pill bugs, but it works kick ass for anything with 6 legs, really.
Cool. Sweet. Like beetles and stuff.
Yep. Yeah. Great for Japanese beetles. Great for the like larger, I don't know what they're called. They look like, I don't know, they're large green beetles in the south. That works really good on them too. Worked on rhinoceros beetles. In fact, Chris Trump is doing a big study with the state of Hawaii on using IPMO as the main, potentially the main thing to combat the rhinoceros beetles that are wiping out the palm trees right now. He's doing
Cool.
a study with the state, which is like really cool because it went from a concept back in 2019 that Chris came up with to now be, 6 years later being studied by a state of Hawaii as a possible main treatment that's using microbes from the state of Hawaii, not something brought in off island to get rid of this invasive pest, which is super fucking cool.
That's
It also
awesome.
attacks all life stages. So it attacks the eggs, the larvae, and the adults. None of the chemical controls will do that.
That's great. I gotta talk to him more. I haven't talked to him in a while. I need to reconnect with Chris.
Yeah, Chris is a great dude. Definitely get a chance. And if you ever get a chance, he's got a new facility out in Hawaii, and it's a good excuse to go out there,
Yeah. Yeah, I got friends in Hawaii too. I need to go visit. I should go to Hawaii. Yeah.
I
Let's go. You
gotta, I
want to go?
gotta,
You want to go to Hawaii,
I
Steve?
do. Yeah, I keep, maybe I should keep this person anonymous, but a friend of mine's father is wanting an aquaponic system out in Malachi, and I'm thinking about going out there to do it one of these for like a couple of weeks at some point here and before the
Cool.
end of the year. So it'd be fun to try and coordinate.
Sweet. Going to Hawaii.
What are some of the other things that you really like about Korean natural farming? You're quite the soil scientist and quite that you're one of you, Matt Powers, and Chris Trump are kind of the only people that are really, in my opinion, like working on new ideas and new concepts and tinkering and really working with all kinds of like new ideas or combining different methods together and coming up with new shit. And you're always coming up with stuff that's completely different than everyone else. It's always fun to chat on this topic.
Uh, so this last run that I did, and this is definitely not KNF, right? But it's definitely like natural farming, playing around with stuff. Um, and I introduced the oligosaccharide chitosan, which stimulates jasmonic and salicylic pathways. And so I used it in late stage flowering in combination with ferments and plant inputs that had jasmonic and salicylic acid inside of them, which really just means aloe vera. And uh, I use a premature apple and peach ferment as my source of jasmonic acid, right? And so combining chitosan after an insect frass top dress, so I'm introducing a source of chitin, adding chitosan, and then aloe and a jasmonic acid source. So aloe has the salicylic acid, jasmonic acid is within the ferment because they're premature. So I'm talking okay. So premature fruits and stuff are are known to have higher concentrations of organic acids, right? And the more they mature, they have more sugars in them. And this is mostly for the audience and not for you. um, and so using premature fruits will have a higher jasmonic acid presence, and then fermenting them is a way to like stabilize it, right? Um, However, fermenting organic acids can change the organic acid state into something new. It can stabilize it to keep it from degrading, or it can break it down completely and make it, no longer present, right? And so without, you know, uh, chromatography to determine whether or not the jasmonic acid was still present, I was just playing around with the idea of introducing it through an FPE, which is, a lactobacillus-based fermentation of the premature fruit, in combination with aloe, chitosan, and insect frass. And, insect frass has been, there's a, so insect pressure will how do I explain this in my entire chain of thought? So chitin will trigger a stress response in a plant as if it's being attacked by insects, right? And in that situation, it will tell the plant to stop focusing on like bud development and to focus more on resin as a way to defend against the insects. And so combining all of this together, my goal is to just encourage that plant to produce as much resin and aroma compounds as possible. Uh, and so yeah, so that's what I played with recently as a natural farming approach that I found to be kind of novel that I'd never heard of anyone else doing before. Um, so that was fun. That was cool. The
That's
weed
really
turned out
cool.
great. Yeah.
That reminds me a little bit. And when I was in the hills up in Jamaica, above White, it's near White House, up in Westmoreland, the guys would take like goat and cow milk, and they would like milk the cows and stuff, and they would take the leftovers after they got what they needed for the day,
Mhm.
and they would just do it until they had run however much that they're supposed to get out of the animal that day, and then put them in these 55-gallon drums, and we would eat like mango skins and soursop and sweet sop skin, and then take all the not the seeds, but the skins and the leftover flesh stuff that we weren't eating, and
Mhm.
throw them all into this big barrel, and they ferment that with the fruit skins and the fruit parts and the milk together, and then use that as a finisher on like week 4, week 5-ish of flower. And when they're
Oh,
about halfway through, and they go and they put that down on the outdoor, on the hillside there, and it really they claimed it made a huge big. I mean, I didn't run
I
any
mean,
side by sides, but it
it sounds like an
definitely,
FPE.
yeah, it was very similar to
Yeah.
what you were describing.
Yeah. Very
But they had
cool.
been doing that for like a long, long time there, which I thought
That's
was
very
cool.
cool. Yeah.
Yeah,
I love learning about new natural farming techniques and stuff. Um, another one, have you ever heard of thiobacillus?
thiobacillus, no.
Yeah. Um, so it is a sulfur uh like solubilizing and oxidizing microbe to help with the sulfur cycle. And since some particular volatile organic compounds are so dependent on sulfur presence and like the sulfur cycle, I wanted to play around with inoculating with that specific like sulfur-based bacillus species, um, to try to get that skunkier aroma out of stuff. You know what I mean?
Oh, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, because
Hmm.
those the sulfur compounds are really delicate, and a lot of them don't last super long. They're pretty volatile, so it's a really interesting. Something I have. What is your use? What do you use for your source of for like inoculating to breed that? Like, where are you getting your source material or source microbes from?
Oh, I mean, I just found it online. I just looked up thiobacillus.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. What? Why would you? Oh, like natural. Oh,
Yeah, how would
like
you
in
call if you're
nature.
gonna
Oh, I
culture
don't
it? How do
know.
you seed it?
I have no idea. I mean, it says
Oh,
bacillus species, so you could probably just multiply it with simple sugars. You know,
sure.
um, you probably just run molasses or glucose source or something like that. Maybe even just fruit.
That'd be interesting to kind
Feed
of
it
to
some
see
fruit.
where to get it to inoculate. That's really cool.
Yeah.
The the one I've been playing with lately, I ordered some plants and I've been tinkering around with some brews lately is lactococcus. So lactococcus is what
Mhm.
they use to make for those of you that don't know,
It's
they use it to make yogurt in the Arctic. So they don't have lactobacillus species as much because of the cold, but they have lactococcus. So it grows on butterwort leaves, which are a predatory plant, and you can just take a lower leaf off of it and then use it to inoculate it, and then you can just batch that out over and over again once you get your initial inoculation. But it actually breeds lactococcus in the leaves to help digest the insects when they break them down to like turn into plant food. So it's another one I think might be good to like add to FAA or to FPJ or FAA, but also to IPMO. Like if you did it like add it at the time of when you brew it, like not so much when you're collecting it, because I don't think that's the right time. But if you combine some of that with the actual IPMO, the concentrate when you brew it, I think could like further enhance the ability for it to kill insects, or at the very least like help break down and weaken that chitin exoskeleton. I think it's something else that's needs a lot more study, but I'm going to be playing with it a lot more this year.
nice.
I was thinking about
Isn't
making
that
some.
what's
Good.
isn't that what they make uh kefir? Kefir?
Is it? My understanding was kefir was a lactobacillus species, but
Is
if
it?
I'm wrong
Oh,
on that,
I'm tripping.
I'm happy to be corrected
You're
if I'm
probably
wrong.
right.
Um, the but yeah, it's something I think that I was thinking about doing a workshop series of on my YouTube and just be like, here's a cool idea, like try it and like let's all report back and like I'll put it together in like a little spreadsheet and read everyone's reports and make like a follow-up video of like how everyone's doing like once a month or whatever and see what people are. I think that'd be kind of fun. Like an open source kind of workshop. You know what I mean?
I would love doing stuff like that. It's hard to get everyone on board and then to follow through and then report their findings. You know
Yeah,
what I
that's the
mean?
hard part.
So I remember Matt Powers was doing something like that with his genetic sequencing, and he's trying to build like a database, and I don't think anyone followed through with that. But I'm sure he
Yeah,
got some information.
yeah, I know he got a couple of the weird samples. I know one of the weird samples he showed me was from an aquaponics facility that was growing, had given him some interesting results. So, what's really weird in aquaponics specifically, just on the soil science nerdy stuff, is awesemites don't really have the same negative impact in water as they do. Like some of them are definitely pathogens, but a lot of them are like mineralizing microbes that aren't pathogenic most of the time, which is interesting compared to some of the others. And then some of them can be like devastating. I know I'm under NDA, but there was a large facility and they had a horrible awesomite issue that ended up shutting down their facility. So
Oh
um,
no.
yeah, and it was one of those things where it was like, man, if you just like inoculated with the right microbes, you could have solved all that without even bringing the system offline, which
It's
is
interesting how some like pathogenic microbes can actually turn beneficial or just be neutralized if they're like in like within vicinity or treated with or just colonizing collectively with other species of other microbes. Even like Fusarium, you know,
yep,
what can actually become beneficial. Um, what I think is a species of Streptomyces is around it. Do you remember?
yep. Or
Yeah.
Fusarium is?
Yeah,
No.
like but I'm obviously not encouraging anyone to try to just like
Yeah.
make Fusarium be beneficial. Um, but yeah, I forget which species it is like when it is in contact with it, but it actually turns Fusarium into like an endophytic fungus that can like be beneficial to a plant.
Huh. I know I don't use streptomyces at all because in aquaponics it makes the fish taste bad. So it
Yeah, I remember
produces
you
a
telling me that. Yeah.
yeah, it produces a secondary, I don't know if it's a triterpenoid or some kind of secondary flavor compound, but it makes the fish taste awful. So it like
Interesting.
yes, it's a great organic way to get rid of fungi in your aquaponics facility, but it will absolutely ruin if you're having eating the fish and not just keeping them to look at. It ruins their market appeal completely, which is really funny. I mean, there's so many different fungi, bacteria, and stuff you can use to get rid of fungi, so it's not a huge issue. But streptomyces specifically makes your fish taste horrible, which a lot of people aren't aware of. I know there's at
Sorry,
least one white paper on
I
it.
had to look this up just so I didn't
Sure.
just say something without.
On the streptomyces fusarium, you mean?
Yeah.
I
So
think you're right, though. I think
there's
it was
species.
strepto. It was strepto or trichoderma. I can't remember which.
Yeah, so there's actually quite a few. There's Streptomyces, um, Pseudomonas fluorescens, uh, Bacillus subtilis. There's three different kinds of Bacillus subtilis actually that'll do it, and then species of Trichoderma, Asperellum virens, Trichoderma virens, Trichoderma asperellum. Yeah,
Okay, so it was
but
strepto and trichoderma. Cool.
yeah, Streptotrichoderma and Bacillus subtilis.
It's been a while since
But
I've read that or thought about it.
yeah. Trichoderma.
Well, yeah, I don't. Trichoderma is great. I think of it more as like a nuclear bomb to like wipe stuff out, whereas
Right.
lactobacillus kind of plays nicer with the rest of your biology.
It's not a great like preventative, like
Yeah,
some people use it as a preventative when it's like, nah, it's more of a treatment. Um, because it like dominates the soil so much, it's
yeah,
like now you're just growing in trichoderma.
yeah. It'll
No
eat
more
your
diversity for you.
yeah. It'll wipe out your beneficials. But if you're fighting something nasty, it can be your savior just to get through the
Yeah.
crop.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
The
It's
other
just
nice
like
thing
a
is you can
tool in
breed
the
it on
toolbox.
rice. Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
It's just another tool in the toolbox, is all I said.
You the other nice thing is you can breed it really well. So you can like take it, inoculate it on rice, and you can take a tiny little bit of a seed batch and then breed it into thousands of gallons if you need to, which is pretty cool. I didn't know that until the Thais taught me that one. They're like, yeah, no, we buy it this the city, but we don't go back and buy it every time. We just make it. Like we just take that little bit and seed it and then make hundreds of little bags, and they take it, they get wet rice, they cook it, and they sprinkle us a little bit of inoculant or some of the rice that's already inoculated, and then just put it into a bag. It's like a fish bag, like you buy at the store when you get a freshwater fish, and they like put it in there and then tie it, like fill it up with air and close it and then tie it, and so it's in like a sealed bag, and then they just batch them out in those, and like hundreds of them when they do fields for the rice and stuff.
That's cool. I
Yeah,
mean, it makes sense. Trichoderma growing on rice
yeah.
or
Have you
straw.
have you played much with like PSB, like you saw it over there, the Juicy? They have the red bottles in Thailand. Uh,
Is that a PSB
it's a
drink?
PSB, yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah.
crazy. I haven't played much with it. Um, my Discord people have asked me like, how do I, culture PNSB? And I'm like, well, I know how to culture PSB. Um, but I haven't played with it too much. I can talk. Words are hard. If I'm after a specific species of bacteria, I typically just buy like it cultured. Um, just because it just eliminates variables, uncertainties. And that's against some people's morals, I guess. I got ripped to shreds one time in a forum for being like, oh, you can just buy the species, and they're like, yeah, okay, this is against natural farming
Oh,
morals. And you remember that? You know what I'm talking
I
about.
think
I
I
got
could probably
ripped to
guess as to
shreds.
who was complaining, but we'll not go
Yeah,
that
we
far out
won't
here.
bring that up. But yeah,
I
it's a,
get crap for that too, for being like,
yeah,
it's something that's not in Master Cho's book. Yeah, but like we've improved upon that now because we can quantify that. We have DNA testing and we have like the ability to test
right.
these microbes under a microscope, and he didn't have those things. So
It's right.
let's
It's like,
let's
what's
just
wrong with
advance it.
scientific advancements? Like,
It's like,
it's
well,
like
he built
sometimes we're wrong about stuff and we need to
yeah.
change it. It's like what? um,
Master Cho built the foundation that like not the building of natural farming is built on, but we're on like the fourth or fifth floor now. We don't need to redo the basement, right? Like, come on.
right, right. And it's like, why are we still living in the basement? Like, we don't need to live in the basement.
Yeah, I think
Um,
that that's definitely a big problem in some of the, especially KNF and Jadam communities, but
why?
like I call
Why
them like
is it like that?
the religion of
Why?
organics, you know?
It's true. I don't understand. Like, why do some people like subscribe to like zealotry surrounding farming and science? Like I personally don't understand it. I'm probably gonna piss some people off, and someone's gonna be raving in the comment section. But I just don't understand why people have to apply strict zealotry to a scientific practice. And some people are like, oh, it's a natural practice and it's about connecting with nature. And it's like, you can connect with nature and still apply science and be scientific about it. Like,
Right?
we don't need blind faith in science ever. Ever.
The other one is a fear of sugar. That's the other one that I just cannot like. I understand people like worried about bacterial blooms and stuff, but if you're
Sure.
taking it, brewing it, and diluting it, okay, well that's not a problem anymore. Like or for preservation, right? If I need to, I can keep IMO or IPMO stable for years on the shelf. You can't do that without sugar. You have to
Right.
lock out the oxygen.
Right. Everything has its time and place and use, you
Yeah,
know? I think oftentimes people they get stuck with just following someone. Maybe it's their favorite creators on social media or someone, where they read their book, and they feel like they have to subscribe um, endlessly and perfectly to that person, or even just like a friend of theirs that told them something and they just believe it and they have to defend it. I just don't. I just don't understand. Like when you're met with new information, like don't you want it to be factual? Don't you want it to be right so that it improves your cultivation style? It improves like the medicine itself. It improves your quality. Like, isn't that what's more important instead of like just I don't know. I don't. I just it boggles my mind. It's okay to be wrong about stuff. You know, I'm wrong about things all the fucking time. No, often we're wrong about stuff. It's crazy. If you think that you're not wrong about stuff, like perpetually, you got some problems, and you're gonna run into some problems, and you're gonna learn the hard way that you are wrong about stuff. You know what I mean? It's like
yeah,
we gotta be humble enough to acknowledge that, like, we're going to be wrong about things.
Oh
And
yeah,
uh, and if someone's telling you that they're not wrong and that they can't be wrong, you need to get away from that person.
yeah.
You know, like God.
One of my favorite ones is like, there's, and I'm not going to name names, but there's still a couple of the big KNF people pushing using brassicas and FPJs. Do not use brassicas and FPJs. They have
Yeah,
allopathy that will wreck your
yeah,
mycorrhizae. And I've
yeah.
seen this under the microscope
Mhm.
multiple times now, where someone went and took like a field of mustard. Two of them were in California, and they took black garlic mustard from one of the fields nearby because it was blooming early on in the season. Made
Mhm.
a whole bunch of FPJ out of it, and then put that out on their crops. And then they're like, "Well, why is all my weed like stunted?" And it's like, well, you just put on a bunch of stuff that cripples mycorrhizae. Like any kind of fungal inoculation is just impossible now because of what you just put on that for at least temporarily. You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
people don't understand that like you don't want to use plants that actively produce allopathy, like that wipes out, that kills fungus. Like yes, you can get them to have mycorrhizae with trichoderma, but like okay, but the trichoderma is going to wipe out everything else too. So now I've like really fucked up my microbes in my soil. You know?
yeah. Sometimes people just don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, or like companion planting with brassicas. You know,
Yeah. Same
um,
thing.
yeah, brassicas are a big one to avoid for sure.
They're great for their own
I mean, you
beds.
live and
Just
learn.
don't put them next to your weed plants. That's all.
I mean, one time I when I first got into KNF, I made a whole bunch of pineapple FPJ and watered it into my soil at maximum strength. Don't do that. Don't do that.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't aware that pineapple has a huge concentration of bromelain, which will break down all the proteins in your root zone. It melted my worms, killed all my worms. It melted the roots. I had big, healthy, thriving plants that after I introduced this full strength FPE out of pineapple, you could just lift the plant out of the soil. They were like 4 foot tall plants. Whoop, just all the roots melted, completely ruined. The complete crop failure from an FPE, you know. So it's definitely important to educate yourself on like what compounds are inside of plants, and don't underestimate like organic inputs either. A lot of people think like, oh, it's natural, it's all safe and mild and mellow, you know. Then you sit in poison oak.
Oh yeah. And uh um oh, I just thought of another one that I had it that was similar and I can't remember what it was now. I just went blank on it afterwards. I'll think of it in a second. Um uh just to go back before I totally forget, if you are looking for a good inoculant, like people listening or you yourself, PNS ProBio is the best purchasable um, uh, PSB that you can buy on the market. I use it all the time for aquariums or ponds. It'll get rid of all the algae really, really well.
That's right.
So
You ever play with barley enzymes? Probably
I
not
have
good for
done.
fishes.
They're okay. They actually sell little like woven barley. It's almost like a bale of hay that people have that's made of barley that people toss in
Mhm.
their ponds or koi ponds to keep them clear to get rid of like the single cellular algae. I have found that it doesn't work all that great. Like it definitely will help, but now that I know about like the PNSB and stuff like that, I'd rather just alter the nutrient level of the pond to where the plants still grow but the algae doesn't anymore. And a lot of that is just getting your phosphorus to nitrogen ratio. Like the closer it is to a 10-to-1 nitrogen to phosphorus ratio, the more of a bloom you're going to get for single cellular algae in ponds and any sun fed body of water. It seems to be, if you hit that 10-to-1 nitrogen to phosphorus ratio, it's going to instantly turn green, and the closer
Mhm.
you get to that, the more green it's going to be.
Yeah, that's good to know. I'm doing a evaporative pond on this project, and managing algae blooms is really important. I might just hit you up for information when I'm doing it.
Oh, for
But
sure.
you said 10 to
Mars
1, 1 to P, or yeah.
Mars company actually has a product called it's through their Pond Master line or Pond Care line that they used to sell a long time ago that everyone thought was GMO, and it wasn't. It was just a culture of PNS. It was just a PNSB fucking
Inoculant
culture. Yeah.
culture.
But everyone thought it was like this like crazy engineered microbe, and it wasn't, but it was just kind of funny. But they still sell it to this day, which, and it's also funny that the same company that makes M&Ms has like a whole pond chemical line. You know what I
Really?
mean? Yeah.
That's
Same parent company.
unusual.
Yep.
Huh.
They sell fish medications as well. They have a really weird business. Like they're very diversified.
How interesting.
Yeah.
I wonder why.
I don't know. It just it's just who owns the company.
Yeah, I guess
There's the-
so. But I'm wondering if there's maybe like overlap between the needs of M&M production and pond ecology.
right?
Like,
The red dye or something. I don't know.
right? It's like they're dumping all their dye into like some big pond and they're like, "Well, we gotta have this bacteria that breaks down all the red dye."
That's one thing I have seen people use a couple times is lactobacillus for pig farms in Oklahoma. I worked for this aquaponics facility that they did a bunch of pig farms. They had Tyson that they worked for contractually with Tyson, and a couple of the greenhouses were like no longer. They changed the standard for like how nice the buildings had to be in order to allow the pigs. So
Uh,
they couldn't use some of their old pig houses, so they converted them into aquaponics facilities because once you deep clean them, because the pigs are so hot, they actually have the adequate evaporative cooling to run a full greenhouse with the roof replaced with clear instead of the metal panels. So you swap the roof over from metal to plastic, you change the shit ponds into fish ponds, you deep clean the trenches where all the shit would flow, and all you got to do is run the plumbing to the back wall where the drains already lead back to the pond because it's already set up for that. So um, it's really interesting. Sorry, my dog is like licking my foot and I cannot get him to stop.
do you need a minute?
Oh no, it's fine. Um, but it was quite funny just to see like, oh wow, like you can very easily convert a chicken or a pig house into a really nice greenhouse because it already has 85% of the equipment minus replacing the ceiling.
That's pretty
So that,
cool.
but they had these big shit ponds from like the ones that were still operating, and we just took a bunch of lactobacillus, literally like a 5 gallon bucket of lacto into each one, and within like a week it went from stinky as fuck like a mile away to you couldn't smell it like 10 feet away. Like it
Oh
was that
wow.
big of a difference. It was insane.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I know they use lactobacillus in like chicken coops and also as uh like a pet urine neutralizer and stuff like that.
Oh yeah. And
I've used it for treating, you know, urine spots and stuff with my cats. So it works pretty
vinegar
well.
works good for that too. But
Mhm.
lactobacillus in particular, for the will help drop out a lot of, I'll act a little bit like a flocculant as well in some of those bigger scenarios with the bigger ponds and stuff like that.
A
Which
flocculant.
actually I remember I was going to say the there's a really cool white paper out there on using lactobacillus versus bleach versus alcohol for cleaning a meat processing facility, and the lactobacillus had the lowest amount of CFUs that weren't lacto of all that compared to bleach or alcohol, which is insane that lactobacillus is better at cleaning meat processing facilities than
Yeah, that stuff
chemical
just
agents.
it just eats everything, doesn't
Yep.
it? Just
Oh yeah.
it's interesting. Yeah, even like, you know, because I saw some I've seen other KNF techniques and stuff like that where they use like lactobacillus diluted solution to run over rocks to extract minerals from. And it's like, what,
Whoa.
this stuff is gonna eat rocks too? It's like now we're getting trace minerals from our rocks by fermenting them in lactobacillus. Like that's kind of that seems impossible, you know?
And you
But
can bulk it out really easy. So say you have like a little bit of the shelf stabilized version. I always make fresh labs. I don't ever keep it stored. I'll keep a small culture in the fridge just as a seed stock, but I don't make like a big batch and then cut it with sugar the way like traditional KNF teaches you. Cause I just found the efficacy goes down the longer the longer you store it, it doesn't wake up the same way. But
right.
you can just brew up a small batch of it, add milk, and then add sugar if you like very quickly need to cover multiple acres or like a large volume. You can just throw a little sugar in there to speed the whole thing up and really cut down on the brew times with the lactobacillus in particular.
To like a day.
Yeah, Chris taught me that
Cool.
like a day or two. Yeah, real fast.
Yeah,
Like usually it's 36, 48 hours.
very cool. Um, yeah, typically I just collect my my rice wash inoculant like under, like a shrubbery or a canopy of a tree or something like that.
Sure.
Um, and it usually takes only like 2, 3 days normally, but I have found that making labs with cream top milk is the best labs that I've ever made.
Nice.
Also, it's a very expensive way to do it, but it's the best labs ever. It's pretty cool.
I was at the
Um,
store the other day and this chick had a jar with a lid on it. And we was at like the health foods, well, not health food store, but like the co-op, the nicer grocery store here. And he or she had a that and then a big thing of soy milk. And I was like, oh, making lactobacillus. And she was like, how the fuck did you know that? Like of all the people, of all the like random people to be behind her to like know that she's brewing microbes, and she was like shocked that I had figured out what, because I was like, what do you need a jar and milk for? And I was like, oh, is
She's
that or
making
she's making
labs.
cheese, one or the other.
Yeah, right. That's so funny. Cool. I'm glad to see that it's becoming more and more popular. I feel like how do you feel about like the popularity of living soil and natural farming techniques like gaining momentum these days? Like I feel like it was really blowing up for a minute. Um, do you think it's still like carrying or like trending upward?
Oh yeah, 100%. And the biggest reason is like the number one reason is the war in Ukraine. So the war in Ukraine is like
It's not
tripled
what
and
I expected you to
quadrupled
say.
phosphorus and potassium prices. So the cost of fertilizer has skyrocketed due to specifically the Ukrainian and Russian war, because almost all, like a huge percentage of your phosphorus and potassium comes from those two countries. And then also with Trump and his tariffs, like the other place that we can get potassium from is Canada, and we were paying for quite a while 25+% tax. So he's crippled the farming industry. Not only have they gone after the workers, but they've jacked up the price of what it costs per acre just to grow the crop, the exact same crop you did last year. Even if you are completely tractor run, it costs you triple what it did before or more, depending
So
on
people are
what you're growing.
so you think
So
that's
that
causing people to turn to regenerative techniques?
it's causing a lot of large scale farms to figure out how to do it for the first time and be like, look, I can do this way, or I can do this natural farming way and go back to something that I can, actually turn a profit on, or like actually become viable for my farm again financially. I mean, that's how Chris Trump originally got into this, was doing the macadamia nuts. A lot of people don't know Chris Trump did aquaponics before he did Korean natural farming, which is a lot of
Oh,
people don't
really?
know.
I
Oh
didn't
yeah.
know that.
Oh yeah. But his macadamia nut farm, they didn't have enough money to run traditional ag that last year. So he was like, fuck it, we're going to do KNF. And if it doesn't work, then we're going to like sell this part of the property. And it ended up crushing it. So, and now
Oh,
the
that's
whole
amazing.
like island has adopted his practices because they get 125% the yield of what they would doing traditional ag. So I think you're seeing
Nice.
that kind of like forced issue where like these farmers that would never ever take you seriously before, if you're like, yeah, the microbes will fix it, they'd be like, yeah, what the fuck ever, hippie. Like now they're like, fuck, I cannot afford to do this traditionally anymore. And if I don't do this, I'm going to lose my farm. And I think that's the number one reason why you're seeing like it went from like small cannabis growers and stuff like that to now like vineyard. Like I know Chris Trump's doing a ton of stuff in Napa and Bakersfield at like large scale wine producing places and huge vineyards. Like
Oh,
you're
I want to
seeing a
try
lot of like
KNF
large,
wine.
yeah, you're seeing a lot of like large scale operations now switching to it because it's lower cost. They have better quality product because you're getting better secondary metabolites. So your flavors and any other things that you're extracting out of it are going to be higher.
Mhm.
You're getting higher brix levels in your grapes and for winemaking. And
Your
same thing with
phenols and
apples
your
for,
aldehydes and your
yeah,
yeah.
and same thing with like apples for ciders and stuff like that. And you're having less disease and less insect problems. So like, yeah, all around, and it's reducing your cost of fertilizer. Yeah, you still need to like amend your soil or fertilize, but you can use a
Sure.
lot less because the
Mhm.
microbes are making it more efficient. So I think that's the number one reason why you're seeing like large scale people for the first time, especially like at a wider scale adoption, really figuring this, and then large corporations kind of being like, can we isolate these microbes and turn them into products and da 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 da, and like all this funding is coming into this space, and people like in both education but also like product development that wasn't there 5 years ago because of namely the number one reason being Trump's tariffs, and then secondarily the Ukrainian Russian war, which has changed the cost of farming at large scale completely.
Huh. You know, you never know how certain choices are gonna lead to other ones, lead to other situations.
Yeah, I certainly certainly did not realize that at the beginning when the Ukraine war started that it was going to have that effect. But it is a if you look at
I
the
mean, it makes
year-to-year
sense.
price.
It makes sense because, like, traditional agriculture is so based, it was originally a byproduct of war. Like after World War One, ammonium nitrate, people are like, oh, what are we going to do with all this ammonium nitrate inside of all these explosives? And they found like, oh, we can grow our crops on it. Now the crops are dependent on it. And then when war starts up again, they're like, oh, wait, we need all this, we need all this ammonium nitrate back. We need all these explosive materials back for war. And so now it's affecting farming, which makes perfect sense.
The United States has a massive number of seamounts and bird islands around the world that is under U.S. territory specifically so we can mine the phosphorus in time of war. That's like the number one reason why we have a bunch of these remote ass islands that are still part of the U.S. territories. To this day, we still have them as a protectorate, which is wild when you think about it.
Yeah, yeah, it definitely is.
When I was in
Good
Zim
old war.
in Kadoma, we had a big what do you call it? Was it Kadoma or was it Harari? Anyways, it was in a warehouse, like a what do you call it? Like a big hardware store, and they have all the different fertilizers just on pallets, and they have the ammonium nitrate, and literally like the aisle and the other side is like drums of hydrogen peroxide, and I was like, really? I was like, nobody smoke a cigarette near this place, or like the city block will just be vaporized. Like,
Oh my
apparently they've
God.
never heard
It
of
was just like
Oklahoma City. Like, Jesus
it,
Christ,
it
guys, come
was it
on.
was it was like really high concentration ammonium nitrate and a high concentration hydrogen peroxide.
Oh yeah, I could probably even
Oh my
find the pictures if you give me a minute. I have
God.
pictures of it, like
That's
actual photos, because I was
crazy.
I was like literally like stopped in my tracks and was like, did not believe that I was looking at what I was looking at the time because I was just so blown away.
Wow.
It's like clearly no one who's worked in the store has ever taken like basic chemistry.
Yeah, because you got an oxidizer next to a
Yeah.
highly explosive chemical.
Yeah. They're literally
Add a bunch of
3 feet from each other.
Yeah, one just makes the other extremely more powerful.
It's just like, oh God, hope a car doesn't hit this building because there will be no block left.
That's crazy.
The other big takeaway I had over there was that everything in Africa is sold by Syngenta. Like they own 98% of like the seed market and fertilizer market in Southern Africa, which is fucked. Like that needs to change, and that's one thing where like Korean natural farming can come in and other similar methods and give the farmers the ability to not have to spend so damn much money on fertilizers and stuff. They might have to buy seeds still and whatever else, or unless they seed save, but um, they don't have to buy the fertilizer anymore. Or with some of the other inputs, they might not have to buy pesticides quite so much. And I think that's making AI tools that can teach people in their native language how to bypass all that shit is really kind of the next thing I think we can do collectively as a community to like make the world better. We can teach farmers as long as they can something they can load on their phone that also works offline. That's kind of the thing that you have to have as
Hmm.
capabilities. But if it does that, man, you can help a lot of people by developing something like that.
I need to start writing content for like a book. I need to start writing a book. I get hit up by people for like books all the time. They're like, and people asking if I have a book that they can buy. I really need to prioritize that.
I
But
got 289 pages on mine done. So
good on you. Good on you. I have zero. I've written a ton of content, through, application writing and articles and stuff like that, but I need to like structure like beginning to end, soil building and enzymology, microscopy, blah blah blah. Discuss
that's the
everything
hard part
from the beginning
is
to
the
end.
feature creep.
Is the what?
The feature creep where you keep adding, you're like, oh, but I should add this. Oh, I should add this. Oh, I should add. And then it's like, okay, well, now I'm like 50 pages later and I haven't actually finished the
Talked
topic yet.
about, right?
Yeah.
Because there's so much and it all ties into each other. Um, it's a lot. It's a lot. People write entire books on soil building. And so to have a book that covers soil building and everything else, in regards to living soil cultivation, it's like how do you put enough information that people are able to functionally do it? Um, without just writing like an SOP, you know? Um, which I guess it could be the Living Soil SOP Master Handbook.
Do you want to
Yeah.
tell everybody how to find you if they want to follow up with and learn more from you?
You can follow my Instagram page at Luna All Day, which is LUNALLDAY. I have my genetics on my website, which is moongrownbotanicals.com. I have my Patreon that you can join through the link in my bio. Um, and I post on YouTube sometimes, but not really. I need to focus more on YouTube. But yeah, so that is my Patreon right there. My Patreon Discord is pretty active, and there is a huge amount of information. Um, enough for a book that covers like every um topic, conversation, soil concept, living soil concept possible that I could even think of. Um, and so when you go onto that Patreon site, there isn't any content up there. You join it, and then it gives you access to the Discord, and the Discord is what has everything. Um, so yeah, and check out my genetics. I don't know. I'm in a bunch of podcasts. You can look me up on YouTube. Just Google my name, Luna Whitcomb or Luna All Day. Um, yeah, that's pretty much it.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for taking the time to come on today. And it's been a really awesome, long conversation, a lot of cool different topics, and it's
Yeah.
been fun.
Yeah, it's been fun. It's always good hanging out with you. We should do another one again soon.
Thanks. And you
Yeah.
guys can find me on all the different audio platforms for the audio version of the show, which is about 90 or so percent of you guys listen on an audio, and then the handful of you that still watch the video versions, you can check that out over on YouTube or Rumble. So, all right, guys, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys again next time. Cheers. Be sure to check out our Aquaponic Cannabis Masterclass with over 650 slides of education, as well as videos of different aquaponic cannabis facilities, hands-on video training, and a whole bunch more. You can check that out at apmjclass.com or Aquaponic Cannabis Growers on Teachable. It's been featured in High Times, Dope Magazine, Dude Grows, Growcast, Embracing Organics, Growing with My Fellow Growers, a whole bunch of different podcasts and publications, as well as features all different, all the different aspects you need to grow cannabis aquaponics: nutrients, pest management, design, aquaponic cannabis business and licensing trials and tribulations, and all the different stuff that we've gone through, Marty and I, over the years. Microbial inputs and a whole lot more. So be sure to check it out. If you're looking to grow the best aquaponic cannabis, or really just get a top to bottom, start to finish, all things reference guide kind of class, be sure to check out aquaponic cannabis class. Be sure to check out the aquaponic and living soil pest control course at thepestclass.com. We have over 400 slides just on pest management, pest control, all things pest management, be it fungal issues, caterpillars, aphids, powdery mildew, you name it. We have solutions on there, as well as a huge list of beneficial insects with release rates and application rates for how to make your own biocontrols, to a whole lot more, as well as a bunch of cool tips and tricks for identifying pests in your garden early on so that you can catch them early. So be sure to check that out at thepestclass.com. If you want to learn all there is to know about aquaponics, be sure to check out the Aquaponic Masterclass at aquaponicmasterclass.com, where we feature the longest course that I've ever done. I've kind of made a hybrid class from all my other courses, and then added a couple of other cool features and things to it as well. You can check it out over at aquaponicmasterclass.com. We do have over 50 hours of in-depth content on there, including over 1,000 slides in the deck alone. Tons of cool videos, tips, tricks, lots of behind the scene footage from a bunch of different facilities that I've worked on, not just cannabis, but many others. We go over how to grow over 100 different types of crops in depth in aquaponics, with pictures of every single one of those crops growing in aquaponics over the years. Tons of fish husbandry information, microbial information, mineralization, optimizations, how to dose your nutrients in your system, detailed dosing guides, starting at 10 gallons and going up to 10,000 in the course as well, for making it easy to do the math on all of your dosing of your different nutrients. How-to guides, tours of different aquaponics facilities, and so much more. You can check that out at Aquaponic Cannabis, aquaponicmasterclass.com. Looking to do more about plant preservation and genetic preservation of not only cannabis, but many other types of crops, be sure to check out Copyleft Cultivars. We have a wide range of resources, as well as an AI assistant to help farmers around the world better protect their genetics from corporate exploitation. I am on the board of Copyleft Cultivars, and I'm proud to be part of this amazing project. You can check out more information either on Patreon or on copyleftcultivars.com. You can also check out the wonderful natural farming AI that we've put together to help make gardening easier than ever. It speaks hundreds of languages, can help you with all manner of plant problems, from pest control to fertilizer creation to natural farming methods, and a whole lot more. You can check out access to that over on Patreon. There's both free and paid versions of the app, so depending on what level of support you'd like to give us, we do offer early beta versions of our latest releases to our newest supporters, and anyone who backs us. We do offer additional resources as well for people before they're available to others, as a way to help fund the program. Be sure to check out the Growing with Fishes podcast. Over 1,000 hours of educational content. We have content on all things plants and soil science, as well as aquaponics, hydroponics, and much more. You can find the show on your favorite podcast app: YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, Google, SoundCloud, Amazon Music, and a whole bunch of other places. Thank you for watching. Be sure to check out any of the amazing resources that we have available to help people with their garden. You can check me out on YouTube over at Ponics. You can check us out over on your favorite podcast app with Growing with Fishes or Ponics, depending on which app that you're using. Most of them are registered for both, but sometimes the indexing works a little screwy on others. You can email me at potentponics@gmail.com. Be sure to check out our classes as well: aquaponicmasterclass.com, apmjclass.com, thepestclass.com. You can check out my website over at potentponics.com, or our Facebook group, Aquaponic Cannabis Growers. Thanks for watching.